Namaskar Bharat and welcome to one of a kind yet perhaps the most important webinar live stream in our MBA Fair so far, the scholarship negotiations. The reason I say this is because the scholarships can truly make or break your dream. So if you play your cards right, you might end up with a lot of money in your hands that can help you enjoy your MBA experience far better. Because you can invest that money in your global field experience at the end of your first year. You can even use that money to network better and invest in travel expenses. In short, money in your hands now is worth more than you'll end up investing in tuition. So don't leave a quarter on the table and be ruthless. Like it says on the screen, get in. Without any delay, we'll just get into the agenda. So here's the agenda for the day. Before looking at the agenda, let me introduce you to my friend here. That's the QR code on the right. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to a WhatsApp group, which will serve as a medium for you to ask any questions about your particular situation. I will try to answer it to the best of my ability. The best part of this is that you can keep helping each other out during the negotiations, and it also eliminates the biggest problem many people have had with live streams in the past, that their questions are not getting answered. And this is a better long-term investment in your future. So I definitely encourage you to join this. And there's no pressure. The link to join the group has also been shared on the channel that you got the link to the live stream for. As for the agenda, we'll get right to it. Like I promised, no BS. First, we're going to look at the metrics the schools say they consider. Obviously, there is always more to the picture than it seems. Then we'll look at the forms of power during the negotiation. Yes, it's true that the business school has the ultimate power to make the decision. You still have power during these discussions. We'll look at how you go through on building some form of leverage in negotiation. Then obviously you have to communicate things through your essay. So your essay communication sent to them, because carefully communicating what you need will determine how well you will do in the negotiations. So those are the things. I know it's not a lot, but there's not a lot you have to do, but it's still more than what you have to do to just put one offer after the other. So we'll just see for that. If you have scanned the QR code, that's good. You can start asking your questions. And before we move further, the mindset you need to enter the negotiation should be that you're willing to let go of the admit you have received. Once you're willing to let go of the school, you automatically enter a better state that will help you make an informed decision that is not guided by desperation. Desperation is a sin basically in negotiation processes. And if you're desperate and the school senses it, there's a good possibility you'll get rejected. And we'll see that. Looking at the general metrics first, the things that matter are first, a new GMAT score. But what if you have the 99 percentile already and cannot retake? Well, that's a question to think about. Next, a promotion at work. But what if you're already C-suite who cannot be promoted for obvious reasons, like entrepreneurs, etc.? And lastly, competing offers. But what if you have no other admits? What in that case? Do you not negotiate? I have worked with all three of the what if situations, and yes, all three got an increase. So don't really hold back. Still negotiate no matter what your position is. Why do schools bend the rules? Is a question that comes to people's minds, because these are the three metrics that the schools will tell you that they consider, but the schools still bend the rules for the others that I talked about. So what makes them abandon these objective metrics? It's pretty simple. It is a game, and you need to know how to use your power in the negotiations. That brings me to the next concept, which is power in negotiations. So understand that there are two forms of power. First, we'll go with the hard power. These are the things that metrics are telling you about. So a new score, competing offers, promotion, etc. But there are obviously pros and cons for each. If you have a new score, for example, you're obviously able to demonstrate your tangible merit that you have been able to increase the score. There is no doubt that you will get an increase. But let's say you have the 98th percentile at the moment and you get to the 99th percentile. Don't you think that you will end up being a better fit for another school, which would probably be a better brand, like a better brand, for example? And who's to say that the school won't just give you a marginal increase of $5,000 to $10,000 and say that they have increased it as agreed upon, and that was the loophole in the agreement? That kind of is like a bummer. So like you already are a fit for a higher ranked school, and now you have to waste probably 6 months and let go of the school because they've not given you an increase. And at the same time, the school is not really reacting well to your scores. So there's the problem there. So that brings me to the other offers, which help you demonstrate your market value. Because the more offers you have, the more you can show the school that you have a lot of value in the market, and many people are putting their bids on you. But think about it. The universities are just getting data that can help them reduce the scholarship amount even further by comparing it to the historical data that they have seen in the past and the people who have been admitted in the past, looking at who has folded under similar circumstances. For example, like if you're in the top 20s and top 15s region, and if you have, like, let's say, an admit from Duke University, and then you have admits from UCLA, you have probably admits from another top 20, let's say Tepper, and Duke is in a decent position. They have some historical data. They have an idea of what people's circumstances have been in the past. And then they just let you know that we'll not be increasing the scholarship despite you having some other offers. And that's a bummer because now there's the brand power side of it, that Duke knows its brand value, and Duke also has the data that tells them that people are not going to let them go just because there is a marginal difference between them and probably like the scholarship of Tepper and UCLA that you had been receiving. So it really varies between the individual. So you have no idea how that goes because you have no way of getting the data other than asking every single person in the school in the past 5 to 10 years to give you their scholarship amounts for all the schools. But does that mean that hard power is nothing? It's not true. All I'm trying to say is hard power alone may not be the best way to increase your scholarships, because the cases I discussed with you are cases I've seen myself. So knowing that hard power is the only way to get the scholarship is a folly, and we have to understand that there are better ways to get a better scholarship increase than this. The second power that we'll be focusing on for the rest of the session, in addition to the hard power, is the soft power. You guys know that in almost all the rankings known in the industry, acceptance rate or yield is a metric most schools are trying to protect to show exclusivity. And if you have personal contacts in the region schools operate in, you give schools that reassurance that you will not just be inclined to attend the school, but also protect your employability based on the personal contacts in the industry. You can show how you will fit in the school based on your personal fit into these school values and all the things that you may have written in your essays. And not to forget, both these things can be considered as the value you bring to the program for others. Another leverage is having a deposit in your hands that keeps the school on their toes, because once the deposit is paid, you have desperately sealed the deal. And this is the desperation I was talking about. Now, why would a school want to give an increase to someone who will be joining the school regardless? They know they have booked you, they know that you're just going to join. So, why should I give the scholarship increase to you when I can give a scholarship increase to someone who has not paid the deposit and incentivize them to join the school? So, there's that mind game also that you have to play in this. So make sure that the deposit is still in your hands, and do not just pay the deposit, just make sure that you still keep the deposit in your hands. So goodwill looks really good on paper, that maybe if I submit the deposit, the schools will care for me. They'll think that I'm a great fit. That looks really good on the paper, but leverage is what sells. And that brings me to how you will build some leverage in case you don't have any leverage. You have to get on calls with two important people. The first set of important people would be the current students. They could be student ambassadors, club leaders, and others, even alumni. And the second is the admissions committee. Why am I asking you to get on calls with them? You've already had a long admissions process. You've probably had many virtual coffee chats. You've probably attended God knows how many info sessions. So here are a few of the reasons. First, you want them to say positive things about you so that you have an idea what your current position is being perceived as. I'll tell you how we'll use it later. So that's the first thing. Second, a great way to show networking skills, basically, and showing active interest in the community. So obviously, that's the networking element of it. You are trying to show more of your networking skills, and this session is usually hosted for people of India and people who are also international students. So if you're an international student, schools do have this tendency to think that you're not really good at networking. So once you show your networking skills, once you show that you're proactive and you're actively reaching out to people, you're not hesitating, they see that this is your strength in some capacity. Third, ask them about what your strengths can be. You have to be careful here to not come across as indecisive. So them saying positive things about you is fine because you will get to know what your merit is. But getting to know what your strengths are from them is a good idea because it helps you build more and more leverage. It also reinforces the idea that you are someone who is meritorious in their heads. So when you're speaking to them, ask questions which will allow them to tell you what your strengths are and what they think you would add as a value to the program, because it also gives you an idea of what to write in the essay also. Next, show a giving attitude. Ask them how you can start contributing and what their expectations are. Basically, set the expectations right. What exactly are they expecting from the current students? Because if their expectations are something that are different from what you're trying to provide, it will just be useless. And I know the symbol actually shows money. You are not supposed to give them money because you're here to take money. The giving attitude is basically whatever you can bring. Like you can probably lead some clubs, you can probably invite some more speakers, you have probably industry connections that will help the other students. So it really varies on what your giving strength is, because people have different capacities. For example, like some people who are like probably children of billionaires, obviously not attending this session because why would they need any negotiation? So like there is a good possibility they have more strength and more to give, but it's not about how much you give. It's about how much you have and how much you're willing to provide. That's basically the idea here. Finally, even getting certifications that you can possess can help you. Knowing which ones the current students have can also help you. So when you speak with the current students, you can ask them what kinds of certifications are the people who are probably pursuing the goals that I'm also pursuing, looking for. They'll give you an idea about what to do. And with the AdCom, I usually take a feedback approach when it comes to students, because if you get an idea of what more can you do to show them preparedness, that's also good, because both of these groups will give you some ideas on what you can do. And then you utilize this December and January month to build that leverage and get some certifications at least so that you can show it to them. So that's basically why I ask people to have patience when they're negotiating, because round two deadlines are like in January. These guys will get results in March. So anywhere before that, you can get the scholarship. So there is no rush. Build the leverage first and then negotiate. And once you've built the leverage, it is time to act. And what do I mean by act? You communicate, obviously. So if you're in this phase of negotiation, this is like the second final phase. You must already know that you have had all the discussions you need to know about your strengths. You've communicated like things and your strengths verbally. They have reinforced those strengths. All the game has been played verbally. And verbal communication was important to state things that you cannot do so in writing. Obviously, because there is limited space and there are things that you cannot just say in writing. So now here, depending on two different situations, you can communicate in writing also. So the general word limit is 300 words or less for most schools. Ever wonder why the word limit is kept at such a small number? Because many of the business schools have a very good upper limit for their essays. So you speak less, you get less opportunity to share improvements. Don't you think this is how you lose a little power in the negotiation? And since negotiation is a game of power, which schools have played pretty well, you're kind of stuck in this situation. But you've not lost that power because you already use the verbal communication. So verbal communication was also important to eliminate any possibility of your power being taken away in terms of like the communication. So that's also a form of power you have gained by making sure that you followed the previous slide that we spoke of. So to write the essay, here's the structure. Start with a gratitude statement because it anchors them to the idea that you feel good about getting in the program. Also, don't waste lines buttering them up. It's a waste of time. Just a simple thank you will suffice. We don't want the whole I feel elated extravaganza, not because it's cheesy, but because you lose two things. First is the word count, and the second is the power. Why power? Showing too much interest will leave them thinking that why would this person need more money? And they already want to join the school so desperately. So, like, why would they give you money? Because you already want to join the school so desperately, they know they'll join, whether they give you the money or not. So why put money on you? Why not just give it to someone else? So it's less about perception that it's cheesy and all. That's fine. That's all subjective. But this is more about the logic behind the power. So make sure that it's just a one-line thank you statement. You don't need to go on the whole spree thanking them and doing all the kinds of stuff that you're trying to do for them. So that's how you start. Then the idea is to start highlighting your leverage by using a very subtle language so that you sound confident, but you don't have to sound arrogant. Because, like, when you start speaking good things about yourself, there is a possibility that the admissions team can perceive that you're probably trying to undermine the achievements of the others. And you don't want to give them the opportunity for that because there is a possibility that people can perceive anything negatively. So, how do you avoid sounding arrogant? The previous slide. You had calls with people who told you about strengths themselves. They were the ones who were telling you those strengths. They handed a free ticket to you. You can state that the ADCOM and the current students have acknowledged these attributes and they find these attributes desirable for whatever reason there were. So that's how you sound more confident. But at the same time, you put it on the other person. They were appreciating me. I'm not the one who's saying this. They are saying this. Show what contributions you can bring to the program, leadership positions you can take. How can you how can you give them even more if you had that extra money in your pocket? For example, like, if I were to have extra money, I would not have to worry about a part-time job post, like not post MBA, during MBA. So that extra money in your pocket will allow you to immerse yourself in this whole experience of MBA, and it won't hold you back from giving and providing to the classmates and not worrying about the cash. The scholarship is not an expense, but an investment in you, so you can invest in them. That's the statement that most of the people who are my clients use. And it is very powerful because that is literally what they tell you about the MBA. The MBA is not an expense, it's an investment in your future. Yeah, give them the same line. It's fine. Completely fine. They don't really care about that. So end the essay with a very subtle yet obvious threat. Losing you will cost them more than giving you a higher scholarship. When you say cost them, it's a very negative word. So you don't have to use these exact words, of course. So remember, I told you, you should be ready to lose the admit if you really need things to work. So you have to be able to let them know that not receiving a particular amount of scholarship, and you have to be very exact about what kind of range you are looking for in terms of numbers. If you're not getting that scholarship, you might just lose the admit and you will be probably waiting for another year, but they might end up losing a student who can bring a lot of value to the program. And that is not the wording you have to use because you have to state that very subtly. And how you state that is entirely up to you because you'll be the one creating the essay. You can take help from anyone you want to. So if you have a bigger word limit now, a higher word count, then the game changes in your favor a little bit because you get some power in this situation. So you'll still do what you will do on the left that we have just discussed. But in addition to that, you go in depth about how employable you are. Probably you have some connections in the industry that kind of sets you apart from the international students. So what exactly is that factor about you that makes you more employable? Probably you have some certifications in the industry that can also help. So certification talk can also be done here. Then you can also talk about probably the connections that you made while you were in the application process, and probably you hit it off really well with some people who are willing to mentor you. So this is another way to bring that up. That also makes you more employable. You gain more points on employability. And that's basically the idea. Reinforce your merit. That's the second thing. Again, the other person said this to me. I'm not the one saying this. They also think that since this is my GMAT score, this is my aptitude, this is my work experience, they think that I would fit really well into the program because they've also seen some other people succeed in the same capacity. That's also reinforcing your merit. You're also putting it on the other person. You're also not saying that I'm the one who's saying this. You're saying that the other people are the ones who are saying this. So that's the idea. Then use the feedback approach that you have taken in the previous slide about speaking to the AdCom and also the current students to eliminate any red flags they saw in your profile. So when you take feedback, you have to ask them, like, is there something wrong with me? Like, is there something I can do to improve? So when they start saying things that you think could have some rationale behind that, and maybe there is some context missing, you can say, like, maybe there is this thing that you feel is a red flag, but it's not a red flag. This is some missing data that can help you understand that it's not a red flag. There is some supporting information given for that. So that can also be used to give you an idea of how you will succeed when you're on the business school and how you'll add more value to the program, and end it in the same capacity, like how exactly you want to leave a subtle threat that if you lose me, you lose more. That's basically the idea. Subtly, not directly, because saying that directly will directly get your application rejected. So this is the whole scholarship phase process. And now here's an offer you'll love, and we'll get to the Q&A in a little bit. So best value for your investment at the end of the session. MBA Times is offering the Hail Mary service for scholarship at a discount. You will have to pay $250 less than your original price of $1,000. So you just pay like $750. But here's a twist. Another $250 absolutely negotiable if you have multiple admits. So there's a possibility for the price to vary between $500 to $750. Why am I saying this is negotiable? Because you might have to convince us a little bit. The twist is only available to the MBA Fair attendees and people who get some referrals from the attendees. Not to forget, you get more benefits as an affiliate if you refer others. Basically, sometimes the service can even become free for you if you meet all the requirements for an affiliate. So you can use this code SNAS 2025 to avail the offer. We also have bulk discounts and round two application options available should you choose to opt for it. The website also has an option to select the number of schools for that. And you can scan this QR code. It will take you to the website. From the services drop-down menu, you can select whatever service you seek for, like Hail Mary scholarships. That would be the service you probably want for this session. And alternatively, if you're not able to scan the QR code, it's fine. You can still visit MBA Times by going to www.mba-times.com/code to request the code yourself. And this was the session for the day. And since I told you that we'll have to have a chat, let's talk. And of course, since we also have to talk, I'll just share the QR code again for the Q&A group. So if you're able to join the Q&A group, by all means, join it, start asking your questions, and I'll start answering those. Pretty short, simple session. If there's anything else you need, the group can serve as a medium for you. For now, I'll just end the live stream, and I really hope you guys have a nice day ahead.